All right, this meeting is recording. All right, and this meeting, let's see, I'm John Mercer for those who don't know. And we have our nutrition expert, Sam Coogan. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
And the purpose of this video really came about because of another love I have in my life, which is foosball. And a group of foosball players, local players, are looking to become a bit more healthy with their weight and their fitness. And so I wanted to try to get some expertise to them because there's so much information out there in terms of how to lose weight, how to become fit, and it's not always easy to get through that. And so I've got an expert here in nutrition. And Sam, I should have warned you. Maybe can you give a sort of a brief overview of where you are in your career and how you've gotten to where you are?
Sure. Yeah, so I am excited to be here. When John told me about, the foosball league, it was something new to me, so I think it's very cool. But I am a sports dietitian. I actually worked with the UNLV football team for 2 seasons. So I have a pretty significant background in the sports world. Currently, I am the program director for our bachelor's degree program in nutrition, and that's also helped me really kind of figure out and cater like how we just educate people in general, whether it's students or the public. And what's nice but also difficult, I think, about nutrition is that the recommendations change all the time.
Hmm.
Whatever you knew 5 years ago or even a year ago is probably very different now. So we'll probably touch on a little bit of that today, I'm sure, as we go through this discussion. So, and I've been a dietitian for going on 9 years now.
Oh, I love it. And Sam is highly regarded regionally in Nevada as well as nationally as a nutritionist. So it's really great to have her spend some time talking with us. All right, so now I've got a group of people who want to lose, well, some want to just maintain their current weight, some want to lose maybe 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and some want to lose even more significant weight, 50 pounds, maybe 100 pounds. And when you meet with people who want to lose that amount of weight, what's the way that you approach talking with them about nutrition, the nutrition aspect of doing that?
First thing is consistency followed with patience. So if you want to see any type of, weight maintenance or weight loss, whether it's 10 pounds or 100 pounds, it should be slowly and in a safe way, because the faster you lose it, the faster you're going to get it back. And when we do that to the body, we really mess with our metabolism. That yo-yo dieting that's been just all over for years, following fad diets with kind of too good to be true promises, they're never going to be sustainable. Like one that is still out there is the ketogenic diet. It's not a viable diet for everyday life. It was meant to be a prescriptive diet for children who had epileptic seizures. It's not meant to be a weight loss sustainable type of diet. So when it comes to a nutrition regimen, consistency is key. Just like how one meal won't make you gain weight, one meal won't make you lose weight.
Mhm.
And really, when you're looking for this consistency, if you can think about 90 days into the future, that's really where you're going to start to see the results. And it could be frustrating for people because you're not seeing results right away, but that's not how it should work if you're doing it the right way.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, one of my favorite shows initially was The Biggest Loser, which they would take people who were overweight and within 15 weeks have a huge transformation. But there's two problems. One that I saw, and this isn't my area, but one, they made all the exercise look extremely hard and it was exhausting every time. And then two, their diets were not sustainable. And so they had these huge changes within a short period of time, but ultimately when people left the show they weren't able to sustain that weight loss. I don't know if anyone ended up sustaining it. There are a lot of unfortunate stories where people went back to their original weight or even more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed it almost, I think it made people almost afraid to work out. And like it didn't make working out look appealing. Like you had to go like hard,
Yep.
hard, 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 hard to see results. And it's not
Mhm.
true. Like low intensity exercise is very beneficial for
Mhm.
fat loss
Yep.
specifically, not just talking about weight loss. So
So if I was looking to lose maybe 50 pounds, which is a lot, how long would you target that in general? Like what would the expectation be to be able to hit that type of goal?
probably a minimum of 6 months and even up to a
No.
year. Because the thing is, when you lose weight, it comes off more quickly in the beginning than it does towards the middle or the end.
Hmm.
And that's because, when you have a higher body mass, you do burn more calories initially. But then as your weight starts to come down, you start to burn less and less calories. So like if it was myself versus say a 250-pound linebacker, we have about 130-pound difference between us. If we did the same exact intensity workout, I'm going to burn far less calories than the linebacker just because he weighs more. So you're going to hit a plateau phase, and that's where a lot of the frustration can come in. But if you can just kind of remain dedicated and see that, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, it's really hard. Individual motivation can be tough, but if you go into working out or eating, not treating it like a punishment, but as a part of your lifestyle, that can make it more appealing too.
Oh, I love it. Make it part of the lifestyle. I think that's great advice. Okay, so now balancing exercise and nutrition. Can you lose that type of weight with being heavy in one area or the other, or how does exercise and nutrition sort of work together?
Um, yeah, so this hasn't really changed over the years. It really is like 80% nutrition, 20% diet, and that those percentages might be a little off, but it's primarily nutrition.
Hmm.
Um, and the saying is true, you can't out exercise a bad diet. Of course, there are lots of things. Genetics play a huge role in this. There are some people who could eat their little hearts out until they're in their 50s and 60s because their metabolism just keeps running. Others maybe not so lucky. The amount of lean muscle mass you have too also contributes to how many calories you burn at rest. So the higher your lean muscle mass or your skeletal muscle mass, the more calories you would burn at rest. That's why resistance training is really beneficial for weight loss. A lot of people think it's just cardio. Kind of a good balance is, maybe 3 to 4 days of resistance training and maybe 2 days of cardio.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I love
then,
it.
yeah, when it comes to the nutrition side, with that, also, you don't need to be so strict. You shouldn't be 100% compliant with your nutrition. And that might sound very counterintuitive because if you do, you're going to eventually fall off the wagon and you're just going to binge and you're going to go after every craving that you've had. So a lot of people tend to, be very kind of strict Monday through Friday, for example, and then they kind of go crazy on Saturday and Sunday.
Mm.
That's not even the best way to do it either, because your body gets used to, say, a reduced caloric load throughout the week. And then Saturday, say you maybe eat double the amount of calories that you ate during the week, and your metabolism's like, whoa, we were not ready for this. So it's almost better to go 80% strict every day and then give yourself that 20% leeway, to maybe have, a couple cookies at the end of the night or something to stave off the cravings without overindulging.
Oh, I love it because it has to be sustainable. And if it's
Yes.
not like you said, if it's not sustainable, eventually you're going to fall off that plan, and it's the weight's going to come back quicker and sometimes even more.
And the
So,
food should taste good. So a big
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
with people like, and I'm the same way, even as a dietitian, a lot of people don't like vegetables. They stay away from vegetables because they think you have to have them raw.
Mhm.
That is absolutely not true. Like with my football players, I told them, like, put cheese sauce on that broccoli, because if it'll get you to eat the broccoli and get the nutrients from the broccoli, I'd rather you have that than remove, the calcium and the minerals and vitamins that you would be getting from that benefit.
Mhm.
The seasonings, the sauces, they're not the biggest enemy. It's not, the 80s and 90s anymore where we have to have dressings on the side. Like, dress up your meals and make them palatable so you'll actually consume them.
Oh, that's great. It's got to taste good because you got to enjoy eating, because don't want to go down the path. And we talked about this before we started recording, is getting some type of eating disorder,
Yes.
which is common in athletes and people who are trying to lose weight. And I like that you brought up the 80/20, where it's to lose the weight, 80% nutrition. It's so important. And when I talk with my foosball friends when we're playing foosball, it's at a bar, and I often remind people, hey, every beer you have, that's like running a mile. So you got to try to weigh how much exercise you're going to do with nutrition, and the nutrition becomes really that important. So healthy eating habits, it's easy to point to things, especially nowadays, that you say, don't eat that. Don't drink the sodas. Don't eat the candy bar, whatever, those high calorie dense foods that maybe not have a lot of nutrition value.
Mm.
But how does someone go about saying, okay, I know what not to eat. How do I start figuring out what I can eat?
Okay, that's a great question. And so I am a big fan of the kind of meal prepping kits that you can order.
Mm.
And it gives you kind of a really good example on each plate. So something like a HelloFresh, Home Chef, there's a bunch of them now. but you could go onto the website basically and you just pick out your plates and it shows you like appropriate portions. So something we use in as dietitians a lot, it's called My Plate. And it's just a visual. So it's, 25% of the plate is a protein, 25% is a whole grain, and then 50% is fruit and vegetables together.
Hmm.
So that's kind of an easy way to do it. But if you look at those meal prep kits, again, they have made them so that virtually anybody can make them, even if you're not the greatest cook or whatever. They're seasoned well, they're flavored well, they do turn out really, really nicely, and it gives you just the right portion that you need. So like you can sign up for like one portion, two portions if you live with a spouse or something, so you don't have any food waste either. And I think that's kind of a good way to start.
Hmm.
I'm also a fan of kind of what I call like easy nutrition. So like smoothies, protein shakes, things like that. Because I think those taste great too. And those can taste like, like ice cream or
Yeah.
like, a dessert. Like one of my favorites is Premier Protein. And the
Mm.
chocolate flavor is, I think it tastes like a melted Frosty from Wendy's.
Hmm.
But there's 30 grams of protein and something like that.
Wow.
You could do like an acai berry shake with a banana and like
Yeah.
uh, 30 grams of vanilla protein. And you've got, a nice kind of like refreshing type of nutrition just to make sure you get the nutrients in. And then that does leave you room for maybe, a little bit more liberalization for like lunch or dinner or something.
Hmm. Oh, I love it, and I love the smoothies, and I do a lot of smoothies as well, and it's like yogurt, ice. I throw in fresh fruit, whatever fresh strawberries, blueberries, bananas, nectarines, whatever I have, and then I add some protein powder as well, and maybe even some cottage cheese, and I like throwing in some baby spinach and
Yes.
put that in a blender and drink
Yeah.
that, and that's a nice refreshing drink as well. Better than my strawberry milkshake, although I do enjoy that as well,
Right.
but just for different times.
Yeah. And spinach is great too for smoothies because you don't taste it, it completely blends into it.
Yeah.
Even avocado will blend into it. You won't even taste the flavor. And something else that's really important too, and that comes especially from that smoothie that you described, is fiber. Fiber is
Mm,
really, really helpful for weight loss because it keeps you feeling fuller for longer. So fiber we don't digest. Humans don't have an enzyme that would digest fiber. So that's why when you see that fiber content, it does help with digestion. And it's good to have a mix of soluble and insoluble fiber. So a lot of insoluble fiber comes from vegetables, like something like asparagus, it's kind of stringy. And then you have soluble fiber from like oatmeal or apples, things like that. So they help with your satiety and they could overall in a day help you just reduce the overall amount of food that you eat because you're satisfied for longer.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you also said make it easy, because the more work that it takes, the harder it is to get that habit in that regular lifestyle. So if you can start off easy, and then you can explore things down the road, I think
Right.
that's great advice. All right, so I asked you before we started about calorie counting, and because we know how many calories are in a pound of fat and so forth and so on, but you had a better approach to thinking about how much to eat in a day.
Yeah, so I like to macro count. So for me, what I prioritize, and whether you're trying to lose weight or maintain weight, go for protein first. Make sure that you're getting your protein goals in there. So on average, it obviously depends on body weight, but if you can shoot for 30 to 50 grams of protein per meal, you're doing pretty well.
Hmm.
Um, when it comes to protein, it's kind of nice to see now that a lot of the recommendations out there, they're actually looking to see that the zero 0.8 grams per kilogram is not actually enough maybe for people. So we might be actually increasing the protein recommendation for the minimum level. So start with protein, again, high satiety value, and it'll help with muscle recovery, especially if you're starting to exercise, help keep you fuller for longer. Next priority would be looking at your carbohydrates. Okay. Now, don't restrict carbohydrates. Everyone thinks that carbs are the enemy. They're not the enemy, especially if you're an endurance athlete, they're like your best friend. But if you are looking to lose weight, you don't need to cut them out. It's actually not a good idea to cut them out because carbohydrates are one of the main fuel sources for your brain. So if you can't function throughout the day or even stay awake for a workout or to even prepare your meal, it's going to do you no good. Just moderated, looking at, maybe fistfuls of starchy carbs, for example, like if you're going to do like mashed potatoes and then making the rest of your carbohydrates from things like vegetables and fruit. And then after that, the fat can kind of falls where it lies, is what I kind of say. So like if you're using like cooking oils that have fat, avocado, things like that, because fat is not often the culprit for weight gain. It's
Hmm.
an overconsumption of carbohydrates. because carbs, they have three fates. They go into your blood sugar for fuel. After that, they go into your liver and your muscle to be stored as glycogen. And then lastly, anything extra will be disposed into adipose tissue on the body. So if you can kind of just moderate your carb intake, then you can see some of that fat start to come off.
Mhm.
Plus, if you cut out carbs, that's where a lot of the cravings start to sit in. You just want to go nuts. We can't live without bread and pasta. Like it's satisfying. It makes the meal palatable. So don't stave away from it. Just moderate those portion sizes.
Oh, I love that. That's great. And so when you're looking at building someone's healthy habits, what are some things like if you went into their kitchen, what are some things where you would say, okay, we got to get rid of these things? Because I'm guilty. If I've got chips around the house, I'm gonna gravitate towards them, or different types of oils or what have you. What would be some things that you would have them remove, and then we can talk about what you would replace them with.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I'm the same way. Chips and popcorn are like the thing that gets me. Um, so I would say initially trying to, like you said, if you just can keep them out of the house, then you can't reach for them, basically. But don't restrict yourself for too long. Maybe even as just a very simple beginning fix, instead of getting maybe the family size bag, get like an individual size bag. So you can still have that satisfaction of the salty chip without overeating, because it's very easy for me. Like I could take down a whole bag of hot Cheetos if I really wanted to. But if you have your portion size is small enough, then you kind of stop yourself and you have that satisfaction. Aside from that, looking at texture and palatability. So if you like crunchy, salty types of things, you
Mhm.
can replace it with things like carrots and cucumbers and put some salt on them. It's okay. Salt's not the enemy either, especially if you're an athlete, because you can be depleted of your sodium stores if you sweat a lot. So, add things that'll make it flavorful. I really like cucumbers with like elote seasoning or even like tahini on them. Give them some flavor. If you like ice cream, I've actually been I've been making these like yogurt cookie ice cream bar concoctions. So Greek yogurt is great to freeze. You do Greek yogurt, maybe a couple scoops of vanilla protein powder and peanut butter in there, whip it up, throw it in the freezer, and it honestly tastes like ice cream. So those could be some easy switches for you, and that's a really high protein
Yeah,
dessert also, with all that in there.
yeah. I love that because I love yogurt and I like adding a little kefir. Is it kefir?
Yeah.
Yeah, to the yogurt just to give it some more flavoring. But I haven't thrown it in the freezer. I'll have to
Yeah.
do that because then it is just like ice cream at that point.
And speaking of kefir, pre and probiotics are good to have in there. It helps with gut bacteria, can help with digestion. So if you're looking, say, I think we were talking about soda earlier, if you're a
Mhm.
soda drinker, maybe consider swapping it out for like kombucha. You still get the fizz from
Yeah.
the kombucha, but you're getting all those pre and probiotics. It is a lower sugar count. There's still sugar in there because it's fermented fruit that becomes tea essentially.
Mm,
Um, but it's a good kind of easy swap. You still get flavor.
mhm,
Water, of course, is important, but you need things with electrolytes and vitamins and minerals as
mhm.
well.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love that idea of kombucha. I also started just doing more soda water, and
Yes.
either just the cans or I got a soda stream to make my own soda water because I just like that as a good replacement for sodas in general. And I love this idea of not demonizing food, because a lot of times people say, oh, they're going to have a cheat day or they're going to have this cheat food, but I like how you talk about just keeping some things in your diet that you just enjoy for the sake of enjoying. I enjoy milk duds, okay? So, but it's a balance. You're not going to eat that all day,
Mhm.
and I guess you really got to just approach it from you got to enjoy eating.
Right. And if you can, limit it without cutting it out, like you look forward to it that much more. You know.
Hmm.
So if you're going from like having something like like Cheetos every single day, and then you cut that down to maybe 2-3 times a week, you're gonna enjoy that experience that much more versus completely cutting it out and then just losing your mind.
Oh, I love it. Sam, this has been great to talk with you. And I told you I'd keep you only for about 15 minutes or so. This would be great for the foosball group to listen to this and then maybe come up with some other questions and maybe we can, do this again and even address some good specific questions as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, you too, John.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.